Annie, thank you for doing this. As I reflect that it's never been done. So you're the first to ask me to do this. Appreciate it. Advice for my kids, and I really cannot think of an hour or so of my kids sitting down to even watch this until I'm gone. And most of them are well on their life. It's hard to think of having kids that are well over 50 now. Youngest, well over 40. I can say it this way.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I would raise my children. Can't tell you how I knew or why I knew, but I knew I would raise my children, my 5 children.
Mm-hmm.
And then she decided that she would move to Utah, and did, and so the kids were out of town. Well, that was something I didn't like, so I found myself driving to Utah probably every 4 or 5 weeks to spend time with the kids. And each time I was up there, by that time I was married to Laura, and so I'd bring 1, 2, or 3 kids back with me, and then 3 or 4 weeks later I would take them back and get the next group. And so that's kind of the way it was for quite a while. Well, again, not knowing how it would happen, Christmas came, and we talked. Grandma and I talked about having the kids come. Well, by that time we had gotten pregnant with our baby, who was born in November, last week of November. And of course, Christmas coming, we decided that we would bring all of the kids down. So probably about the second week of December, I had gone up and picked up the rest of the kids that we didn't have at the house at the time. And so we were all of a sudden, all of us together. Well, so Grandma was taking care of her 3, ours, and the 5 that came from Utah. About a week into the visit, I looked at what I thought was a good time to ask Donna if we could keep the kids with us, that she would never say yes. Well, Donna did say yes. And so that brought our family together. And although I think in Grandma's case, never really having seen her depressed or overburdened with anything in life, all of a sudden those 5 kids were going to stay, so we had 9 children. Obviously the baby 2 or 3 weeks old and needing a lot of care and attention. But somehow we seemed to make it work, and we went through the big kid, little kid thing, and we gave each of the big kids, the 4 older kids, the 4 younger kids, the oldest taking the youngest, except for the baby, and then each of them getting their child, which we call the little kid, big kid system. So if a little kid needed something, they would be assigned to go to their big kid.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it was something that they needed, or button a shirt, or comb their hair, or get them bathed, or whatever, that seemed to work pretty good. And that really was the system that seemed to work for us. Because loving someone is sort of a two-edged thing when you're having difficulties or issues. But when you like someone, you like the way they are, you like the way they do things, you like the way they look, you like the way they take care of themselves. So I found myself terribly in like with Grandma. And I think that probably helped things, because I think I was a little smitten about that part, but probably love came later.
Mm-hmm.
And so I liked her positive attitude. She lifted people that she was around. She was a willing wife and a willing mother to do the things that I could sometimes call burdensome things. She seemed to take those things on without an issue of complaining. She was not a complainer. And she seemed to be a happy person.
Yeah.
And that was an enjoyable part of being part of her in our relationship. And I don't think I can remember a time of asking her to do something that she had a problem with, an issue with, or turning me down. And I liked that. And she was taking care of me as well as all of the children. I never had to worry about anything to wear that was not ironed and ready to be worn, or underwear that were not in my drawer, or socks, or anything else. There were tough times. In a way, we had a two-door car for 11 people, and everybody had to fit and be in there in a certain way or it didn't work. And so it worked. And, it was kind of like a clown thing, and we'd take a video of everybody getting out of the car. And when you watch, I was out, so 10 people getting out of the car, a two-door car, was kind of a kick in the head. And but everybody went where they were supposed to be, and everybody had their assigned place, and it seemed to work.
Yeah.
Later we got a Suburban, so it seemed like a school bus almost.
Yeah.
So,
So being married for as long as you have been now, what do you think is like your number one advice for all of your married kids and grandkids?
well, obviously, going back to liking someone, I think that was probably as good of thing that I could have done, is to find somebody that I really liked. And obviously I was taken because I thought she was very pretty. And she stayed pretty for all these years, because she still, even today, she gets up in the morning and puts herself together to look as good as she can, first for herself and then for everybody else, which includes me. And I enjoy that part. She takes care of herself, she wants to look good, she wants to dress well, and I've tried to provide a way for her to do that. Probably Michelle, being the oldest, was probably the best thing that could ever have happened for our family. She was not necessarily a no-nonsense child, but she was responsible. But we enjoyed Michelle so much, and she was smart and made friends easily and so on. Jim was always obedient beyond, never questioned, very supportive of anything that we wanted to do. He was quiet, but very athletic, wanted to do things that went out on picnics and climbing mountains or shooting guns, or eventually living here at this farm area to go out to the farm and hunt and enjoy that part of our area. I think he enjoyed it as much as any of the kids. He's a man that has always been faithful in so many ways to his family, to his wife, to the church. He's now a counselor in the state presidency, having been a bishop in his area. And he's a man, he's told me many times, he says, you know, I figured out a way to make a living and do well, and I didn't need anybody else to help me get there. He just has a way of achieving in life, and has, and does well as any of his brothers. that's been a fun thing to watch. And so Brent was always quiet as well. Probably he came to live with us first before the others came by about 2 months, because he wanted to be down here in Arizona with his dad and mom. And so he came a couple of months earlier, and he was probably more serious. When we got to Beverly, Beverly was and is a joy to be around, but her mind took a different track. And keeping up with Bev was a fun thing, but we didn't know often where she was headed. And it was a different experience than Michelle and Jim and Brent. Different in a fun way. There's a picture of Bev as a cheerleader with all of her cheerleading group in photos. She was the only one blowing a bubble with bubble gum for that photo. That was a Bev thing. And they were always little things that were happening, but they were always fun. I mean, we look at that picture now, and that was a Bev, and we enjoyed it so much. We had a princess in our family as well, and that was an Allie. I don't know why she felt like she was a princess and catered to by all of us, but she was the princess of our girls. And she liked her hair a certain way, and she wanted to look a certain way. That was just the way it was. And we all loved that. The way that she attached herself to Grandma, Laura, was even at a time when we were living across the street, and I had married Grandma and Laura across the street. Before they moved to Utah, Allie would come over to the house and just simply knock on the door, and as the door was open, she would raise her hands to be picked up, because she was the princess. That's what I gathered, at least. And so it was kind of love at first sight and first experience with her new mom. Kimberly was, when she moved to Utah with her family, I think she wanted to be with her new siblings. And so we would often hear that she wanted to be here. And so we would often bring her to Mesa. And she just wanted to be around her new brother. Always had a soft heart and a responsible heart as well. She grew up smart. She was probably as smart as any of the kids, because eventually in her academics and so on, and taking care of some of the things in our business, she was probably the smartest one and the most responsible one, and concerned about how things were going. So obviously, Julie came along, and Julie is she was different in certain ways. Everybody was a friend of Julie, and she was probably the one that everything had to go a certain way for her to be happy. She had to dress a certain way. She would write notes. She would be an organized girl in every way that I could think. She had planned out her life. She knew what she wanted, and she was going for it. And I don't think anything bothered Julie. She was just marching through life, doing what she wanted to do, and doing it. She had lots of friends. lots of girlfriends, and I didn't probably realize, because she was named as homecoming queen of her high school, because she was that outgoing personality, and had achieved lots of accolades of life, because she was a cute, beyond cute little girl, and people liked her, and so she was king and queen with her friend in high school, which we thought was amazing. Corey, it was interesting to live with Corey, because Corey went through life on his own pace, and sometimes we didn't mesh well, which is strange, because now it couldn't be a better guy than Corey to be a friend of and a father to, and an example of somebody that achieved things in life that were remarkable. And Anna came along in an unusual way, but feels as much of a daughter as any, and her kids are our grandkids, and we love and enjoy that family as much as anybody. We were able to spend time with her in the summers, and she became part of our family, and we count her as one of our kids, so we count 10, and she is as much of all of us as any of us. And so we love that part, and she is probably as involved with our family and as much a part of our family as any of our children are. So that's been a great thing to have. So we count 10, all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Telephone's always going with something. But at any rate, we've enjoyed through our married life and raising of our children to find out that some of our best friends are our children. And we track them, they track us, we go out with our children, we go on vacations with our kids, we feel comfortable around our kids. When we got married, we had children, and so we weren't beginning our marriage without children, so we've always had children. The last year or two, more or less, we've been empty nesters for the first time in a lot of years, and we've enjoyed that. It hasn't been as though there have been times through the years that we've been by ourselves, but lately we put out a kind of a no vacancy sign, and we found that we enjoy being together as husband and wife by ourselves, so we can open our bedroom door, come out any way we choose, and run through the house if we're going to run, and that's been fun to do. To be loved by Grandma is beyond anything I can tell you. It's just been a joy. She, again, has never shirked anything through her life with me. She's trying to look out for everybody. Penny is the love of our life. And in talking about Penny and the other kids, Penny is ours together. And it is not as though Penny is more loved necessarily, but Penny was ours together. And that was a little bit different. And so it isn't as though Penny is more special than the other kids, but because she's ours together, there was some difference, and it brought our families together in a way that otherwise probably would not have been done. She is kind of like, she's 40 years old plus, and she loves to be called by the nickname she was given by all of her siblings. Grandma and I don't call her that, but her siblings do, because she's who she is to them. Penny went and has gone through a lot of things in life that have been, but Penny had to go through some hard things. But she survived it, has put her life together in ways that are miraculous. She has 5 beautiful children. She has brought us the joy of our relationship as husband and wife, to be able to have a Penny in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Joy.
Yeah.
I mean, Laura has her sisters, I have my brothers, and each of them we do things with, we enjoy, but our kids that's our crown, our jewels in our crown. We'll be with them always.
Mm-hmm. So one last question for you.
Well, having been born in the church, raised in the church, by parents who were very faithful in the church, gave me a stable place in the church. And I believe in the gospel. For me, with the way I think, the gospel that was restored to the earth simply makes sense. Knowing the gospel plan, living life in the hereafter will be much more similar to this life than we know. And it makes sense that we will have our families. Now I've had 3 particularly impactful spiritual experiences in my life that were not asked for. I mentioned one where I was teaching a class and I was...
Hey, babe.
I'm talking and we're involved. So.
Yeah, I'm in rest real quick.
Okay.
You have to be over there in an hour.
Honey, I'm talking to Annie.
Oh, sorry.
The one of the out-of-body experience was in a church building teaching a gospel essentials class. It taught me that who I am is not my body and what you see. Who I am is my spirit, who knows and has everything that I've ever learned, heard, or experienced. And that was me out of my body, and that's who I will be until I'm reunited with the body as a resurrected being. That was very impacting. I learned that the leaving of the body is easy, and it is something that we can all look forward to. It is not a hard thing to go through. We will be reunited with our body. The first experience I had when I was 14 was an experience that showed me that how God loves us. And it was a 2-hour plus experience as a 14-year-old boy in a chapel, not far from the room that I had the out-of-body experience in. I felt love, an intensity of love that I can only begin to say is an unearthly love. I didn't want it to leave me. It was intense. I experienced it for 2 hours and I didn't want to leave or have it leave me. I was not taught anything during that experience other than the feeling of that intensity of love. And when I hear of out-of-body experiences when people think that they've gone to heaven and they see the light and they feel the love of God, I understand that fully. That is much of what we will know when we meet our heavenly parents. The other experience was an experience with Grandma where we were told and heard things that we should do and what we needed to do to be together. And it kept us together, and from then till now, that has been one of the most impactful experiences in our life. We were both told things that we needed to do, and I've tried to do them ever since. And one of the things was that one of the purposes of my life was to take care of my wife in every way. And so from then till now, I've tried to build my wife, build our relationship in ways that that make us what we call together us. We are us. I am not me, she is not her. We are us together. And everything we experience is keeping us together as us. And what we expect to have and expect to experience, whether I'm going to be live long in this life or not, we will be us when we meet again. I can be a better man in some ways than I am, and I'm working on it and trying on it. You know, when I hear apostles and prophets say that they're still learning and growing, and I'm amazed at their lives, I still have a long ways to go. So that's kind of my goal. I'm learning every day. So it looks like we're going out. This is the day of my 45th anniversary. And we're going to take us and go to Ruth Chris to eat and enjoy being together. That was Grandma. She'd just taken some of our kids and great-grandkids to the movies, and that's what she does often, to be able to spend time with them.